Lesson 10. Building a Nation with Words and Ideas. Although Thomas Jefferson is remembered as the author of the Declaration of Independence, he's also remembered for other reasons. Listen carefully to learn about Thomas Jefferson's contributions. Benjamin Franklin enjoyed the company of another patriot, Thomas Jefferson from Virginia. Jefferson was often the youngest person in the room when the founders met in Philadelphia, whereas Franklin was often the oldest. Like George Washington, Thomas Jefferson was always ready to serve his country, but the place he most liked to be was at home with his family. Do you remember the saying you learned that Jefferson might have used in talking about his home? "There's no place like home," he said. This is Jefferson's home, his favorite place to spend time. When Thomas Jefferson was a young lawyer, he started building a house close to the farm where he grew up in Virginia. Built on a hill, he named it Monticello, which means little mountain in Italian. He worked on it for many years, before, during, and after the war. This image shows present-day Monticello. Jefferson traveled in Europe and brought back many ideas from France and Italy. Because of Monticello and some other buildings he designed, Jefferson is called the father of American architecture. Architecture refers to the design of buildings, or the way that buildings look. In fact, Jefferson was one of the people who worked on the design of Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. Like Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson liked to invent things. For his house, he invented a pulley system that opened doors, and a mechanical clock that kept track of the days of the week. He also invented a dumbwaiter, a shelf that could be piled high with food dishes, raised from the kitchen downstairs up to the dining room, then lowered back down with empty dishes when the meal was over. Thomas Jefferson was one of the most important writers in the colonies. Remember, he was the author of the Declaration of Independence. Because he wrote so many important papers and letters, he wanted to be able to make copies of them for himself. So, Jefferson bought a copy machine from his friend, Charles Willson Peale. It was one of the first copy machines ever made. As Jefferson wrote at his desk, a second pen was automatically writing the same thing right beside him. Do you notice the picture? Jefferson could write a letter and hand you a second copy right away, without even going to a copy machine. This is a picture of a modern-day version of Jefferson's invention, and his would not have used writing tools like the pencils in this image. So he could continue his work away from home, Thomas Jefferson invented a lap desk that he could carry with him on horseback that could hold all of his paperwork and office tools. This is similar to carrying a backpack or a laptop. After the Constitutional Convention and the election of George Washington as the country's first president, Thomas Jefferson returned to Virginia to work on Monticello. When he was not at Monticello, often he was off representing his country, sharing his ideas both in America and in Europe. George Washington served as President of the United States for 8 years. When he retired to Mount Vernon, another one of the founding fathers, named John Adams, took his place, becoming America's second president. Thomas Jefferson became John Adams' vice president. A vice president is someone who's second in command to the president. 4 years later, Thomas Jefferson became our nation's third president. In the 8 years that he was president, he did many things to help the young nation grow. One of the things that Thomas Jefferson believed in most was public education. He realized how fortunate he had been, having the chance to attend excellent schools all his life, but he knew that not everybody could afford to do so. Perhaps Jefferson's greatest project was planning for a public college in his state of Virginia. A public school is one that is funded or paid for with the people's tax money. A college, or university, is a place to continue studying after high school. He designed the buildings, chose the subjects to be taught, and raised money to build the University of Virginia. The university was built on a friend's farm just down the hill from Monticello, so that Jefferson could watch it being built. Do you notice the picture? Do you notice anything similar about this building and Monticello? Thomas Jefferson died on the afternoon of July 4, 1826, just hours before the death of his friend John Adams. The second and third presidents of the United States of America died on the 50th anniversary of Independence Day. An anniversary is celebrated every year, like your birthday. Your birthday is the anniversary of your birth. So, Jefferson died 50 years to the day after the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Like George Washington and Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson is remembered in many ways today. Some of our nickels or 5-cent coins have a picture of Jefferson on one side of them and a picture of a domed building on the other. Do you notice the image? Do you see the domed building? The domed building is one with a curved top like many sports arenas. Can you guess what building that is? Right, it's his beloved Monticello. I'm going to ask you a few questions. If Thomas Jefferson did these things, say, Thomas Jefferson did that. If he did not, say, he did not do that. Help design Washington, D.C. and his own home, Monticello. Lead the Continental Army. Found the University of Virginia. Serve as President of the United States. What important job did Thomas Jefferson have that George Washington also had some years before him? Jefferson is called the father of American architecture. What did he design? You learned that both George Washington and Thomas Jefferson are pictured on some United States money. Do you think that money is a good place to put the faces of people we want to remember? Describe one of Thomas Jefferson's inventions. Why was public or free education important to Thomas Jefferson? What is the most interesting thing that you learned about Thomas Jefferson? In the read aloud you heard, the second and third presidents of the United States of America died on the 50th anniversary of Independence Day. Say the word anniversary with me. Anniversary. An anniversary is an important date that you remember on the same day each year. My parents went out to dinner last night to celebrate their wedding anniversary. Think of an anniversary, a date that you or a friend remembers in some way every year on the same day. Try to use the word anniversary when you tell about it. For example, you might say, today is the second anniversary of the day we got our dog. That means that you got your dog 2 years ago on this same day. Give it a try. What's the word we've been talking about?